Where's the best fly fishing you've ever been?
Montana or Washington?
I'm asking where's the best fly fishing you've ever been?
My best day?
Where's your best day?
Whew. That's a hard question. If you want quantity, Small Creek in Montana, when your fly hits the water. There's another secret creek up around Darrington. It's off the hook. It was off the hook. It was crazy. Fish are fighting other fish to get your fly. But, I mean, you're catching, a few hundred in a day, which is awesome. Up in Canada, they have this thing called the Bow River. It's an interesting story in itself that the fishery happens below the city. And it's because they dump their treated sewage into the water. And so the plant life has just flourished. And then there comes the bugs, and then the fish are just gorging themselves. The average fish in there is over 20 inches, which is pretty good for a trout.
Yeah.
The Missouri River can almost match that, but I think you're catching more like 17, 18 on average in the Missouri. But a 20-incher in the bow is just an average fish. With, Missouri, I mean, they've got their big browns. The bow has huge browns. So as far as size, I mean, those two rivers are pretty hard to beat. But for me, ultimately, what I look for is the purity of the situation. If I'm just going down, just whoring out my fly to any hole on the river, I don't know what fish lies underneath. It's all fine and good, and I enjoy it tremendously. But for me, the ultimate when you're fly fishing is seeing the fish before it sees you and presenting that perfect fly and then watching the whole interaction as that thing comes up and gulps it down.
How many times have you seen that?
Oh, man, I live for it. I mean, when it comes to fly fishing, that is it. I love seeing the fish, and I love putting the stock on. I think there's something primal and beautiful, and there's definitely an art form about it. Like,
so, have you had that moment?
Oh yeah, plenty of times. What's
your dream catch? What's your dream catch?
Oh,
location,
man.
Situation.
Well, I mean, you think about it. I mean, fly fishing, it evolves, and I mean, if you have money and you have the ambitions to do it, they have this film tour that comes through Bozeman, and it's these folks, and everything right now is like drones. You want to
is Bozeman like the capital of fly fishing?
It's supposed to be.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be. There are some other places in the world that are like, we're the fly fishing capital. It's like, who
fuck
knows?
You ain't Bozeman.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's right. And some people are like, no, it's West Yellowstone. There's a town up there. West Yellowstone is. It's like, I don't know about that.
I've heard a lot more about Bozeman than I have. I'm not a fisherman. But.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's just guides out there, trying to give more notoriety to what they're doing. But I mean, fly fishing scales up. You do the ultimate here. Like right now, it's trout and sight fishing, and but so they have this film tour come through, and I think one of the ultimate things is permit. These permit, and there's these fish that are built like this, and then they're this wide, and they're like this round, and they're kind of savvy, and they're in the saltwater, and they've got these guys that are taking these planes to catch another plane to go to a boat that's going to take you out to these islands that have never been fished in the South Pacific, and these guys are just down there with these spey rods just ripping these fish. And man, I think that would be amazing. And there's a lot of sight fishing that goes on. They sight fish for the permit. They sight fish for bonefish and tarpon. I mean,
you're reeling a fish that's that big?
Oh yeah,
on a fucking flat, like on a flat.
Yeah, I mean, they scale up rods. They get bigger rods and stuff. And yeah, so
oh my god!
I mean, who has the money? I mean, I don't have the money for that right now.
Yeah.
But I think that would be one of the.
That's the ultimate.
Yeah. the big thing they're pushing last year was Mongolia. Mongolia, they're talking about these taimen. And these taimen are like a cousin to salmon, but they're residential. And so they stay in the same river system, but they can get to be 80 pounds. And they're over in Mongolia and these rivers that have nobody on them. And they're just ripping these huge fish with flies that are like 18 inches long. And they're stripping them. And, you know, these taimen come up and, you know, they're in for the fight of their life. And, yeah, just... And I love that the world is built up around such ideas as that.
To me, this is something totally new and fascinating. I look at it as I'm attuned to hunting, and I get that there's bow hunters, but I've never done that. I've gun hunted and harvested like one deer in the last 20 years I've hunted. But I get that there's bow hunters that do it. Yeah. And there's gun hunters that do it. And that now you were telling me on the fly fishing end of it that, yeah, you can fly fish at Twin Ponds and pick up shit that off of these little store-bought flies like this, but you can get 18-inch flies and pick up fish that are that big.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, those are more like the salmon. The permit are saltwater based, you know, but... Yeah.
Still, that's like, there's a whole, like, if you want to jump down that rabbit hole of fly fishing, that's where you end up is...
Yeah. Yeah, as the ultimate, one of the ultimate prizes. Yeah. And those permit, I guess, are pretty hard to nab.
Yeah, that's... I kind of joke. I'm like, I dress like a redneck, but I'm not a redneck because my fishing, I can't fly fish. My fishing is literally throwing a worm with a bobber on. That's my experience. Sure. And hunting, as I harvested one deer 20 years ago. I would need someone above my shoulder to tell me how to gut one again. Yeah. And that's two goals I have is to become a better fisherman and become a better hunter in the next 5 years.
Well, you know, one thing I read, I mean, it just blows my mind about fly fishing is a trout or any fish, they live in a different world. And your fly is the portal into yours. I just find that just absolutely amazing. In the last,
that's the peyote.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, your fly's the peyote, and you know that fish. I mean, the last place they're ever going to want to be is in your net. And I mean, do they? Is it a fear-based thing that they try to escape? Is it an instinctual thing? But either way, the last thing they're going to want to do is have you either touching them or messing with them. They want to be left alone. They want to survive. But you trick them with that silly little fly that you've made with your hands, and it's a human experience, and it's a connection to the river and what they've been feeding on their entire lives. And you're able to emulate that. I mean, what a bunch of bastards we are, you know, for celebrating that idea. Yeah. You know, to trick them into coming towards you, and that's the last thing that they would ever want.
Absolutely.
So I mean, I don't know if it's a power thing or it's definitely not a survival thing. Like we said before, you know, there's better ways to catch fish than that. Even today, I was thinking about how the difference between, say, coaxing a fish into striking a fly or taking a piece of bait, and I don't believe that that's how they used to harvest these fish in the rivers, where it was more of a primal thing. There's the fish. I need to get that fish, and I'm either going to stab it or I'm going to corral it into a little catch.
Yeah, a cone.
Yeah, and it's more. There's trickery to it, and
I think we've become masters of trickery.
Yeah, for sure, and that's what we celebrate.
But that's how we got to where we are, and that's how our brains developed to where we were able to get to an industrial revolution. And then once the industrial revolution happened, and we concentrate people, then all of a sudden we have to concentrate food.
Yeah.
And that's when commercial farming starts to trickle in nutrients, and that's when commercial fisheries have to happen, because we have to have calories shipped in. Like, so we not only do we have the cotton gin producing a shit ton of fabric, now we have to have people to man all the machines, and we're peeling people away from their family things. Like, it's a little nutcasey, but I'm on that thing where, like, that was the start of the end of the family unit, and for generations and generations, Dad never left home. Dad worked in the field. And son went out and daughter went out and watched him plow that field and helped him plow that field, and that's how we made our living. And now all of a sudden he's going to Fabco.
I mean, it's a crazy dynamic, I think, but
I think we're coming to a point to where it's gonna eventually, everyone's gonna look at that going, well, Tesla is going to make driving ridiculous. Anyone who has a driving job is now out of a job. So we have to come to a spot now to where you create or you don't.
Well, how about this? I mean, how about you just endorse your robot that goes to work for you? Right? You are just going to put forth some sort of resource to go into a robot that's going to go to work for you so you can do whatever. Maybe that's where we're headed. I mean, that is an interesting. Like, I had this biology teacher. He said, I mean, this is a professor, right? He says, you know how many people are made for this world? Like, for everyone to have a decent quality of life? 4.5 billion. That was his idea. And at that time, the world was at 6 billion. And then the question he proposed to us is, if there are more people on this planet than is ideal, what's going to happen? And he suggested that science has to keep up to produce enough for everybody to survive.
Absolutely. We have to have macro farming. We have to have, which they're doing amazing stuff in Finland right now. With their agro farming in these ridiculous sustainable laboratories. PacSci has been doing a lot, or PopSci has been doing a lot of features on them. It's awesome.
I've got an idea. Want to go into business, change the world. Multi-billionaires would be. It's the ocean. You ever see that thing about how the world would, if all the mountains and all the land above the ocean was inverted, that the ocean all the way around the world would still be 2 miles deep? And so we're running out of land. Japan has no land. We're going to have to go into the ocean. Well, my idea is that you build fields that you can raise or lower out in the ocean. And what these fields raise is, you're out there, and whenever you want to harvest them, you either dive down a little ways or you raise them up to the top. if you sink them down, you could raise shrimp